I used to believe love was loud, the kind that announced itself in family dinners, group photos, and long speeches about loyalty. I believed that if someone said, "We're family," enough times, it had to mean something. I was wrong. The day I learned that wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No slamming doors. Just a message that arrived at the exact moment I still thought I was safe. My name is Elena Moore, and until that day, I thought my life was finally settling into something good. I was 30. Engaged. Exhausted, but hopeful. The kind of hopeful that comes after years of proving yourself to people who keep moving the finish line. That afternoon, I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes. My fiancé, Ryan, was at work. We were moving in together the following weekend. I remember smiling at how ordinary everything felt. Then my phone buzzed. One message. From my sister. "Just so you know, don't make a big deal out of this." No context. No explanation. I typed back a single question mark. The typing bubble appeared. Disappeared. Then another message came through. "Mom and Dad already decided. It's better this way." My stomach tightened. I stood up slowly, as if standing too fast might make whatever was coming hit harder. "Decided what?" I typed. This time the reply came instantly. "The engagement dinner. You don't need to be there." I stared at the screen. The engagement dinner had been my idea. A small thing. Just family. A chance to finally feel included instead of tolerated. "What do you mean I don't need to be there?" I wrote. There was a pause. Then the message that changed everything. "Ryan doesn't really fit the image we're trying to keep. You understand, right?" I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Because that's what you do when something hurts too much to process all at once. I told myself it was a misunderstanding. That my parents wouldn't really exclude me from my own engagement dinner. They wouldn't do that. Not again. So I called my mother. She answered on the second ring. "Elena," she said brightly, "what's going on?" I took a breath. "Mom, did you tell Claire I shouldn't come to the dinner?" There was silence. Not shocked silence. Careful silence. Then she sighed. "We just think it's better if things stay simple." Simple. That word again. The word they used every time I was expected to shrink. "I'm your daughter," I said quietly. "And we love you," she replied immediately. "But love doesn't mean we have to agree with your choices." My hands were shaking now. "So you're choosing an image over me?" She didn't answer right away. That was answer enough. "You're being emotional," she finally said. "This isn't a punishment. It's just practical." Practical. I hung up without saying goodbye. I sat back down on the floor, surrounded by boxes that suddenly felt pointless. Ryan came home later that night to find me sitting in the dark. He knelt in front of me and asked, "What happened?" I showed him the messages. He read them slowly. Then he looked up and said something. "I'll never forget. They don't love you. They manage you." That was the first crack, not the betrayal. The realization. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. I thought being excluded from a dinner was the worst thing they could do to me. I had no idea what they were already doing behind my back. That night I didn't sleep. Not because I was crying, not because I was angry, but because for the first time I started replaying memories I had always explained away. Every "be reasonable," every "don't rock the boat." Every time my happiness came second to what looked good from the outside. Ryan fell asleep beside me, one arm draped protectively over my waist. I stared at the ceiling and realized something unsettling. My family didn't just disapprove of my life. They were actively rearranging it without me. The next morning, I decided not to argue, not to confront, not to beg. Instead, I opened my laptop. For years, I'd handled small things for my parents, bills they forgot, accounts they didn't understand. Paperwork they hated reading. They used to joke that I was the responsible one, the safe pair of hands. What they never noticed was how much access they'd quietly given me. It started when my father had his first health scare. I was 24 then, freshly graduated, working 2 jobs. He asked me to help temporarily, just until things stabilized. Temporary became permanent. I became the person banks emailed first, the name copied on documents, the signature that smoothed over mistakes. Claire liked to pretend she didn't care about money, but she cared deeply about status. The clothes. The car. The way people leaned in when she spoke. That afternoon, I checked our shared family account and froze. There were recent transfers I didn't recognize. Large ones, all labeled event expenses. I clicked deeper. Venue deposits. Caterers. A private dining room at a restaurant I'd never been invited to. My engagement dinner. The one I wasn't needed at. Paid for using an account my name was still attached to. My chest went tight. They hadn't just excluded me. They were financing my replacement. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I took screenshots. Then I did something I had never done before. I logged out. That evening my phone rang. Claire. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. Then a text. Hey, quick question. Did you change something with the account? I waited. Then replied with one word. No. Which was technically true. An hour later my mother called. Elena, she said sharply, are you busy? Yes, I replied. With what? Living my life. She ignored that. The caterer says the payment didn't clear. I leaned back on the couch. I'm sure you'll figure it out. There was a pause. Elena, don't do this, she warned. Do what? Make things difficult. I smiled. Mom, I said softly, you've been doing that to me for years. Her tone hardened. You wouldn't even be where you are without us. That familiar guilt button. It used to work every time. Not anymore. I'll call you back, I said. I didn't. That night, Ryan asked me if I was okay. I think I'm finally honest, I said. He squeezed my hand. That's when I decided something important. I wasn't going to explode their world. I was just going to stop holding it together. I thought cutting me out was their power move. I hadn't even touched the real leverage yet. The engagement dinner happened without me. I know that because Claire made sure I knew. She posted photos the next morning. Candles. Wine glasses. Everyone smiling like nothing was missing. The caption read, Family first, always. I stared at it longer than I should have. Ryan glanced over my shoulder and scoffed. Funny how family first never includes you. I didn't reply. Because something else had caught my eye. Claire's hand on her left ring finger. A ring I recognized, not because it was expensive, but because I had helped pay for it. 3 years earlier, Claire had asked me for a temporary favor. She was between jobs. Her boyfriend had just left. She needed help covering a few things until she landed on her feet. That ring was one of them. I remembered it clearly because I'd argued with her about it. You don't need this, I'd said. She smiled and replied, It's an investment. People treat you differently when you look like you belong. Now I understood. This wasn't about Ryan. It never had been. It was about control and competition. Later that afternoon, my father called. Elena, he said, exhausted. Your mother's upset. I almost laughed. She always was. What happened? I asked. The restaurant demanded full payment up front. Claire said the account you handle usually covers these things. I kept my voice even. And it didn't. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he said, You need to stop this. Stop what? Not fixing their problems? I didn't do anything, I replied. That's the problem, he snapped. There it was. The truth, finally spoken. They weren't angry because I hurt them. They were angry because I stopped absorbing the damage. You raised me to be independent, I said calmly. This is what that looks like. He hung up on me. That evening, Claire showed up at my apartment. No warning. Just knocked like she owned the place. When I opened the door, she smiled too widely. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. She walked in and looked around like she was evaluating furniture. "So," she said lightly, "you really going to blow up the family over a dinner?" I folded my arms. "You use my money to host it?" She rolled her eyes. "Please, that account is basically communal." "No," I corrected. "It's convenient." Her smile slipped. "You've always been dramatic," she snapped. "You know Mom and Dad have expectations." "Of me?" I said. "Not of her." She crossed her arms. "You don't understand pressure." I laughed then. A short, sharp sound. "I've been holding this family together since I was 22, I said. "You've been playing dress-up." Her face flushed. "This is jealousy," she shot back. "You hate that I finally have something." I stepped closer. "No," I said quietly. "I hate that you took it while standing on my shoulders." That landed. She left 10 minutes later without another word, and for the first time I knew exactly what I was dealing with. They didn't want me gone. They wanted me useful. And silent. That's when I realized my sister didn't want me out of the family. She wanted me underneath it. 2 days after Claire stormed out of my apartment, my phone didn't stop ringing. Not her. Everyone else. My aunt first, then my cousin, then my uncle, who only ever called when he needed something signed. Each conversation followed the same script. Confusion. Concern. Then accusation. Something's wrong with the accounts. Vendors are calling us. Why is everything suddenly stuck? I listened. I said very little. Because here's the thing no one realizes about people like my family. They don't notice you're holding everything together until you stop. By Wednesday morning, my mother finally called. Not yelling, not crying. That calm, dangerous voice she used when she was about to make something sound reasonable. "Elena," she said, "we need to talk like adults." I almost smiled. "We've always talked like adults," I replied. "You talk. I fix." A pause. Then, softer. "You're hurting everyone." "No," I said. "I stopped protecting you." She sighed dramatically. "You're being selfish." There it was, the word they used whenever I didn't disappear for them. "You skipped my engagement dinner," she continued. "You embarrassed your sister." I closed my eyes. "You embarrassed yourselves," I said. "You just finally felt it." Her tone shifted. "Cold now. If you don't undo this," she said, "there will be consequences." I waited. "Like what?" I asked. "You'll be cut out." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You already did that," I said. "You just forgot to tell me." She hung up. By Friday, the fallout was visible. Claire's engagement venue canceled due to payment complications. Her dress fitting got postponed. The honeymoon booking mysteriously vanished. And suddenly, people who had ignored me for years remembered my name. That afternoon, I got an email. From a number I didn't recognize. Short. Professional. "Elena, I've been following your work for a while. If you're open to a conversation, I think you'd find this interesting." Attached was a calendar link. Ryan raised an eyebrow when I told him. "Is this a trap?" he asked. "Maybe," I said, "but it's not theirs." The meeting was on Monday, a glass-walled office downtown. The man across from me didn't waste time. "You've been acting as an unpaid executive for years," he said, "for people who don't respect you." I didn't interrupt. "We're acquiring a firm," he continued, "and we need someone who actually understands how systems run, not someone with a fancy title." He slid a folder across the table. It was more than I'd ever made working for my family, and the position came with one condition. "Complete autonomy," he said. "No divided loyalties." I thought of my mother's voice. Claire's smile. The word selfish. "I'll need a week," I said. He nodded. "Take your time. People like you usually do." When I got home, Claire had left me a voicemail, crying this time. "Elena, please," she sobbed. "You're ruining everything. I deleted it." Not out of anger, out of clarity. For the first time, their chaos wasn't louder than my future. And that's when I understood something terrifying and freeing all at once. They never loved me for who I was. They loved me for what I absorbed. And I was done being the sponge. The moment I accepted the offer, my family realized they were about to lose more than money. I accepted the offer on Tuesday morning. No announcement, no dramatic goodbye, just one email. I'm in. Start date confirmed. That was it. By noon, my mother somehow knew. She always did. My phone rang while I was grocery shopping, standing in front of a shelf of cereal I didn't even need. Elena, she said, not bothering with hello. Is it true? I didn't ask what she meant. Yes. Her breath caught. You can't, she said. You're still involved here. No, I replied calmly. I'm not. You're abandoning your family. I put the box back on the shelf. You abandoned me first, I said. I just stopped pretending otherwise. That's when the threats started. Lawyers. Audits. Breach of duty. Consequences. They wanted me scared. Instead, I felt light. Because for the first time, none of it mattered unless I allowed it to. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived. Official letterhead. Legal language. Empty intimidation. Ryan read it and looked up at me. They're bluffing, he said. I know, I answered. They always do when they lose leverage. And then came the moment they didn't expect. Friday evening. My new employer sent a public press release. Nothing flashy, just a short paragraph announcing a leadership appointment. My name. My title. My role. By Saturday morning, my phone exploded. Old colleagues. Extended family. People who hadn't spoken to me in years. And buried in the chaos. A message from Claire. Not crying, not yelling, just one line. How could you do this to us? I stared at it for a long time before replying. I didn't do anything to you. I stopped doing everything for you. She never responded. That night, Ryan and I went out to dinner. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet place with dim lights and food that tasted better than it should have. Halfway through the meal, he smiled at me. You look different, he said. How? Like someone who finally belongs to herself. I didn't answer right away. Because for years I thought revenge meant destruction, burning bridges, winning arguments, making them feel small. I was wrong. The real shift happened when I stopped centering them at all. A month later, my mother tried one last time. She showed up at my door. No shouting, no drama, just exhaustion. You've changed, she said quietly. Yes, I replied. I had to. She searched my face like she was looking for the old version of me, the one who fixed, the one who folded. She didn't find her. And finally, she left. No apology, no closure, just the sound of footsteps walking away. I closed the door gently, not because I was afraid, but because I was done reopening it. The collapse didn't come loudly, no headlines, no courtroom scenes, no dramatic confrontations, just absence. Stores closed quietly. Emails went unanswered. Meetings stopped happening. The company didn't fail overnight. It thinned out, like a structure that had depended on one beam for too long. And once that beam was gone, everything else had to carry its own weight. It couldn't. I heard things through other people, that my father had stepped down for health reasons. That Claire moved out of her downtown apartment. That the board meetings grew shorter and quieter. Nobody said my name anymore. They didn't have to. Ryan and I moved a few months later. Not far, just far enough. A place with windows that caught the light in the morning and a kitchen that didn't remind me of old arguments. I didn't announce it. I didn't need permission. Work became something I did because I was good at it, not because I owed anyone loyalty. People listened when I spoke. Not because of a family name, not because of obligation, because I showed up prepared. One afternoon, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. It was my mother. No subject line, just a paragraph. She wrote that she missed me, that things had changed, that she hoped one day we could talk as adults. I read it twice. Then I closed the laptop, not out of anger, out of clarity. Some conversations only exist to pull you back into old roles. And I was done playing mine. The strangest part wasn't the distance. It was the peace, the quiet weekends, the ordinary dinners, the feeling of not waiting for the next crisis. I used to think love meant endurance, that if you stayed long enough, bent enough, fixed enough, you'd earn your place. But what I learned was simpler. Love doesn't require you to disappear. And family isn't the people who demand your silence. It's the people who respect your voice. I didn't win. I walked away. And that changed everything. If you've ever been told to be patient while being erased, if you've ever been called difficult for wanting basic respect, if you've ever stayed too long hoping someone would finally choose you, this is your reminder. You're allowed to leave. You're allowed to choose yourself. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't payback. It's freedom. If you were in my place, would you have walked away too?